Hello everyone, my name is Professor Moore and this is a video guide covering the basics of MLA formatting. In this guide I'm going to talk about margins, the heading, the header, spacing and indentation, as well as font uses and optional things like the title. Alright, so what I've done here is I've opened up a brand new Word document. This is the newest version of Word in Office 365. If you have an older version of Word, that is okay. All these pointers and formatting settings can be done in other versions of Word as well. And in fact, they should be done in basically the same form. All the settings and everything are still generally in the same place unless you get a very old version of Word like pre-2003. So as long as you're using a somewhat modern version of Word, this should work for you. All right, so here we are with a blank document. I've just opened it up. Now, one thing I highly recommend that you do before we get into any of this is under View, you want to enable your rulers, right? And what this will do is this will show you your margins and your indentations on the page. It's just nice to see because, again, with formatting, we're looking on being exact. And it's hard to be exact without knowing, again, the exact, inches and indentations that we're using. And what this does is it allows us to see those things. So the first thing we want to do is check our margins, and MLA calls for 1-inch margins on the top and side and bottom. Okay, so here we can see that our margins are in fact 1 inch on the sides and on the top and on the bottom. So we know our margins are correct. However, if for some reason we need to change margins, under layout, there is a margins option, and Word used to default to 1.25 inches on the sides. That would be incorrect. We want it to be 1 inch. So here we are with the 1 inch margins all the way around. If you're using a different program other than Word, make sure that you do set your margins to 1 inch again on the top, sides, and bottom. And now we have our margins correct. All right, so here we are. So we've just opened this new document. We're about to start writing our essay. What is the first thing that we should type? Well, the first thing that appears on an MLA document is the heading. And this basically takes the place of a title page, right? It's just a series of 4 pieces of information to kind of give the reader what they need to know about you while you're writing this and what the date is. So we're going to type in our name. Okay. We're going to type in the instructor's name. You're going to type in the class title, or if you're doing this for a company or some other activity, you need to type in the activity or company name. In this case, it is a class, so we're going to type in English 101. And then we're going to type in the date. Now, please note that the date has a very specific format that you need to use in MLA. That date format is day, month, and year. So we're going to type in 24th of August, 2017. And now we have the correct heading. All right. So please note that in the date, there's no TH after 24. There's no comma after August. It is just day, month, year. And that is exactly how it should appear. And make sure that you spell the month out. Now, as for the other items, your instructor name and the class title, you might want to ask your instructor to see what they prefer, because there's no set rule for this. So just ask your professors, like, okay, A, what do you want me to call you? And B, what would you like the class title to be? Because it doesn't have to be the course and number. It could be the actual name of the class. In the case of English 101, it'd be like Composition 1. So see what they prefer. But either way, these are the 4 items that should exist in an MLA heading in some form. All right, so the other thing that's going to appear on MLA document is the page number header. This is a running page number header that appears on every page that includes 2 items, your last name and the page number, and it should be located in the top right. So there are many ways to insert a page number in Word, but I'm going to show you the one that I prefer because I feel that it's easiest. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Insert. We're going to go click on page number over here. And remember I said it was in the top right, so we're going to go top of page and on the right. Now, before I insert this, I do want to kind of point some things out. You do not want any extra formatting. So clicking on like this accent bar here, or there's some goofy colored ones down here, or there's whatever the heck this rounded rectangle thing is. So we just want the plain number on the top right. So we're going to click plain number 3 on the top right, and it'll insert that for us. So that is a page number that's going to show the new number on each new page as we type right there. Now, remember I said you also need to add your last name. Now, fortunately, when you insert this page number, it will immediately put the cursor in the header to the left of the page number exactly where we want it. So all we need to do is type in our last name and hit the space key. All right, so now we have our last name and page number in the header. We'll just double click on the main essay down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit enter all the way down just to make sure this is working. And we look and it's like, all right, it's our last name, page number 2, we're good to go. Okay, so the next item is optional. This would be the title, but the title would come after the heading if you do want to include one. So what we'll do is we'll type in a title here. Titles are awesome! Exclamation point. Now it will not be left aligned. It will be centered. So we're going to center it here, and we're going to go back and left align. So there we go. We have a title. It's centered. It's right after the heading. The next thing we need to worry about is actually typing our essay. So I'm going to type a few sentences here so we have some text to work with. Okay. So we have our couple of sentences here so we can play around. So the next thing we need to worry about is indentation. Now MLA calls for a 0.5 inch first line indent every time you start a new paragraph. Mind you, this does not include the heading, so we're not going to highlight the heading for this. So how do we set up a first line indent? Well, there are, again, many ways to set up a first line indent, usually under paragraph settings, but for the sake of being easy, this is why I had you display the ruler. So if we just highlight the text of the essay, and go up here, this top arrow here is the first line indent. So we're going to slide that to 0.5 inches. And there we go. So now we have a 0.5 inch first line indent for every time we start a new paragraph. So if we just start a new line and we're like, hey, this is sentence 3, notice it's already indented 0.5 inches, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, so first line indent of 0.5 inches. Now, by default, if you hit tab, it should indent 0.5 inches, but I highly recommend you do not rely on that because your tab settings can be changed. Different programs have different tab settings. The best thing to do is do exactly what I did here. Set your actual first line indent to 0.5 inches so you know it's exact, because again, the whole point of this video is making sure things are exactly correct, because every little error in formatting can cost you points if you're writing an essay for a class. All right. So the next thing up, we have our indentation set, we have our heading, we have our header, we have our margins. Well, what's left? Well, there's two more things. The first of which is spacing. So what we're going to do is spacing applies, and the rule for MLA is double space, no more, no less. So everything needs to be double spaced, including the heading, and it should not be more than double spaced. It should not be less than double spaced. So we're going to go select all. And what we're going to do here is we can set spacing using the paragraph settings up here. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to the detailed paragraph settings. In order to do that, there's a little arrow here, a little box and an arrow that goes to paragraph settings. So we're going to click on that. And what we're going to do is like, all right, we're just going to click double space. All right, we've double spaced. We're going to click OK. And we're done, right? Excellent. So we're double spaced. This is where we run into problems, because yes, we did hit double spacing, but because Word has a little extra feature in there, notice that something's wrong. Look at the spacing between these first two lines of the essay. Now look at the spacing between the title and the first line of the essay. Notice how this space is bigger than this space? So that is an error. As a matter of fact, every time there's extra line spacing, that is an error, right? Depending on how strict your instructor wants to be. So what we need to do is we need to fix that. So let's see what went wrong. So we're going to highlight everything again, and we're going to go back into paragraph settings. All right, so we set double spacing. Aha, but what's this? Don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. By default, every time you hit the enter key, Word will add in a little half line space. We need to get rid of this. It is an error. It is not allowed in MLA formatting. So we're going to click this box. We're going to click OK, and this is going to fix it. Now, if you're going to be doing nothing but MLA style documents from here the whole time you're using Word, say you bought Word just for your English class, you're going to set this as the default so you don't have to worry about it later. But for the point of this video, we're just going to hit OK, and I want to show you what happened. Look carefully at the spacing now, and look what happens. All right, shrinks everything down, but now we have uniform double spacing, the spacing between the two lines of the essay and the title and the heading items, it's all exactly the same. We have successfully created MLA style spacing in this document. The last thing I want to talk about is kind of a minor point. It has to do with font usage. MLA does not have specific fonts that it calls for. The only rule in MLA is that it needs to be a legible font, right? Now, legible font would be basically anything that you can read, the word legible. So Arial would work, the default font works, Times New Roman works, really any font that's just a regular style font. Again, it's something that you'd see in a magazine or book is fine, right? It used to default to Times New Roman. I personally prefer Times New Roman, so I'm going to switch mine real quick. Oh, I have to highlight everything first. All right. And I'm going to go 12 point because I like mine just a little bit bigger because my eyes are going bad. All right, there we go. So that is one option. Again, you don't have to choose Times New Roman 12. Again, the default font for Word is absolutely fine. You can use Arial 12 point. The idea is you don't want to go too large, so don't go any bigger than 14 font, and you want it to be a font that you can actually read easily, right? Those are the only two requirements. But I often get asked, hey, what font should I be using now? The one last point I want to make is if you decide to change your font, like in this case I went Times New Roman 12 font, you also have to change the font in your header, and often students will forget to do this. So go to your header, highlight this whole thing, and you have to change this now to Times New Roman 12. Okay, and this is only if you've decided to change the font. So again, if you're sticking with the default font in Word, you don't need to worry about any of this. But if you decide to use a new font, make sure that the header matches the rest of the essay. All right, everybody, so that is it for this video guide on the basics of MLA page formatting. I have covered the 1-inch margins, how to insert a page number header in the top right with your last name and page number, how to do the heading with your name, instructor, class, and date in the format of the date at the top left, how to do titles, how to make a 0.5-inch first line indent, how to do correct spacing without extra line spacing, just using only double spacing. And that is everything you need to know for the basics about MLA page formatting. Hope this video was helpful for you. Give it a like if it was.